Мы надеемся на то, что Михаил Сергеевич, поправившись, вернется к исполнению своих обязанностей. По крайней мере, тот курс, который начинал Михаил Сергеевич Горбачев в 1985 году, этому курсу мы будем следовать и дальше.
When it comes to the Soviet Union, people tend to focus on a few specific moments in its 69-year history and relegating everything else to the back. This leads to people not knowing or having vague knowledge of important moments in Soviet history that don't involve Stalin, World War II, or the height of the Cold War. A prime example of this is the August Coup of 1991. Between August 19th, 1991 to August 21st, a coup against then-leader Mikhail Gorbachev was launched by disgruntled hardline communists who wanted to reverse all of Gorbachev's policy and return to the old Soviet status quo. The roots of this discontent runs all the way to when Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in 1985. After speedrunning through 3 different leaders between 1982 to 1985, the Soviet Union finally got a leader who wasn't an old fart waiting to kick the bucket. Gorbachev was part of a new generation of Soviet leaders who wanted to reform the Soviet Union and its stagnant economy to place it back as an equal to the United States. As General Secretary, Gorbachev enacted 3 famous policies: Glasnost, Perestroika, and Demokratizatsiya, or openness, restructuring, and democratization. Generally, these policies were supposed to bring more freedom to the people and even some capitalism, the reform of privatization brought by Perestroika. Under Gorbachev, however, the economy did dip. It wasn't Germany after the Great Depression bad, but it did nonetheless. The Soviet Union was also changing the way the government worked, with elections, non-communist candidates able to run, each republic getting their own presidents, and Gorbachev becoming the president of the Soviet Union as a whole. This is why you'll see Yeltsin as the president of the Russian Republic during the coup. All of this did not bode well with the hardline communists in the government, so on the 18th, while Gorbachev was in his dacha in Crimea, Gorbachev's vice president Gennady Yanayev and the other hardliners, backed by the head of the KGB Vladimir Khrushchev and defense minister Dmitry Yazov, demanded that Gorbachev resign. Gorbachev, however, refused to resign, and I can't help but having the image in my mind of Gorbachev staring Yanayev and the others down and saying, "No, you," while standing in his front porch in his robe, holding a glass of vodka and eating a handful of semichki. He was then put in a house arrest and cut off from the rest of the outside world, signaling the beginning of the coup. In the early hours of August 19th, Muscovites awoke to tanks rolling down the streets of Moscow, with some even surrounding the Kremlin and the Russian White House. All the independent media outlets, radio, TV, and newspapers were shut down by Khrushchev's KGB agents, and only through government media were the people told that Gorbachev was sick and couldn't lead. The people, however, knew exactly what was happening. Russian President Boris Yeltsin, surrounded by the Russian people looking for guidance and answers, gave a speech in front of the White House on top of a tank, calling the emergency committee illegitimate and a disgrace, and he called for the emergency committee to bring back Gorbachev and for there to be a general strike until then. Yeltsin not only had the support of the people, but more importantly, he had support from the Major General of the Russian Air Force and some of the army's higher-ups, which is why he was able to climb a tank. The rest of the day of the 19th and the 20th was spent protesting on the streets and building barricades around the White House in case of an attack, which they weren't wrong about. The emergency committee planned to storm the White House with tanks, special forces, infantry, paratroopers, and helicopters. It wasn't until later on in the night where the defenders informed on the attack and when it would start. But in the meantime, bus and trolley bus drivers blocked streets and tunnels, people began to use materials from a construction site to build barricades, and a crane driver even began to help by moving heavier material. At around 1 in the morning on the 21st, IFEs were moving towards the White House through an underpass when they were stopped by the barricades and surrounded by protesters. This is when the protesters began to throw rocks at the armored vehicles, which then progressed to Molotov cocktails. One of the IFEs then caught fire and all hell let loose. In the chaos, 3 civilians died from stray bullets or being crushed by retreating IFEs. In response to this, the plan to storm the White House was cancelled, and the army under the control of the Emergency Committee was ordered out of Moscow. Seeing the end in sight, the emergency committee went down to Gorbachev's dacha and were like, "Hey Misha, like JK bro, haha, got you good, right, Misha? Please don't hang me." In the end, all of the plotters were fired and arrested, except for Pugol, because he decided he'd rather shoot himself. The people rejoiced in the streets and Gorbachev returned to Moscow, but the people of the Soviet Union began a demand for the end of communism in the Soviet Union, and by the end of the year, the USSR was dissolved. In my eyes, this coup signified to the Soviet Union that the people were no longer going to tolerate the secrecy and the oppression that the old Soviet government functioned on, and I think this is best exemplified by the defense of the White House. The people were willing to fight the whole of the Russian army with nothing but barricades, some small arms, and some elbow grease. Even bus, trolleybus, and crane operators were willing to help, which is ironic because it reminds me of when Lenin was able to incite the people of St. Petersburg to fight against the attempted military coup called the Kornilov Affair. I hope you were able to learn more about the August Coup, and I hope this leads to you wanting to learn more about how it affected the rest of Russia and the Soviet republics, because due to time restraints, I was only able to focus on Moscow, and I think they're also worth learning about. Anyways, thanks for watching.